Chris Sale added to his Cy Young resume with a big win on Wednesday night as the Atlanta Braves sweep the Minnesota Twins and gain some ground in the wild card as well as in the division as they set up for a 4-game series in Philadelphia. We'll cover all that. It is the last stand for the Atlanta Braves in the NL East. We'll discuss all that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Check out the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Well, I will send out a post on Thursday asking for you to submit your mailbag questions for an episode we record live on Friday afternoon. So get ready for that. If you're watching on YouTube and new, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well so others can find us here, and leave me a comment down below. I try to get to those almost every day, but I appreciate you leaving those there, especially those who let me know you're an everydayer or that you make this your first listen of each and every day. Always enjoy hearing that. On today's episode, we're going to recap Wednesday's game, Chris Sale's performance, Luke Williams, Matt Olson coming through with some big hits, the bullpen shutting things down as the Braves get a sweep. And then we're going to take you around the league. We're going to look at the standings. We're going to look at the playoff odds. And we're obviously going to talk a lot about the big 4-game series coming up against the Philadelphia Phillies. In my mind, this is the Braves' last chance. They still want to win the division. This is your opportunity to get back in there and give yourself a chance in the month of September to come back and win the NL East. And that all happens this weekend. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Before we get into postseason picture and everything, let's recap Wednesday's game and what a great series it was. A 5-1 win on Wednesday, a sweep for the Atlanta Braves, the first time since the middle of June when they swept another AL Central foe in the Detroit Tigers. I want to say maybe it's something against AL Central teams. They've won a series over the Guardians. They swept the Tigers. They've swept the Twins. Haven't played the Royals yet. They lost the series to the White Sox. That is one kind of like last year and the Braves losing a series in Oakland. It's one I'm just having trouble to get over. How do you lose a series to what is going to ultimately be one of the most historically bad teams we've ever seen in Chicago? They had 49 fans in attendance for their game yesterday. But either way, the Braves against the rest of the AL Central have been really, really good this season. And like I said, they finish off a sweep of the Minnesota Twins. Let's start offensively. You had Jorge Soler. Defense has been an issue, and it was an issue and then kind of a good thing in this game as well. But he does get things started with a solo home run in this one, and that's why you get him. You know, the night before, he gets a couple of walks that shows you that on-base ability. Last night, Wednesday night, he gets a home run, shows you that power. And look, as much as I said it wasn't a fit just for where the team is in terms of the contract and in terms of where you have to play him, because he should be a DH, the bat still brings you what you need in this lineup and that power, on-base ability. The bat absolutely can be a benefit to this lineup. It's just everything else. The contract, the fact you have no place really to play him, and you're forced to play him in right field. But the bat obviously is what this team needs. So you have to have him performing. And again, a couple of walks the night before, home run on Wednesday night. That's what you need from Jorge Soler. Ozuna got on twice. That's just kind of expected at this point. But in my mind, it was Matt Olson who, again, came up with a big hit, maybe the hit of the night. After an Ozuna walk, he gets an RBI double, a ball that he laces in the gap. Ozuna scores from first. He's still out of gas, out of breath. But that was a big hit in this game, and it was a response to the Twins tying it up in the bottom of the 6th. You come right back in the top of the 7th and get a big hit. That is now 5 straight games for Matt Olson in which he has had an extra base hit. He had back-to-back games with home runs. He's had doubles in back-to-back games now and a double before having that back-to-back games with the home run. So you're starting to see that power, that extra base ability come back from Matt Olson, who's been really good, like I said, over that last 5-game stretch, and hopefully that continues. One thing that does continue is Ramon Laureano, and just the legend of Ramon Laureano. He comes up with a big hit following Matt Olson, a couple of hits on the night. He's just been really, really impressive for this Braves team. He's been huge. He's taken over the left field job. He's going to play every day. Righty, lefty, doesn't matter. He's going to play every day right now, and as he should. And Luke Williams, you give him a start. Everybody wondering why you giving him an opportunity over Gio Urshela, who's been solid over there. He comes in, has 2 doubles, and he has the big hit in that 7th inning to kind of break things open. It's impressive to see what he's able to do after not playing for a while and be inserted in like that, and then come up with a big game. I feel like you've had this be the case for a lot of Braves players the last couple of years. A lot of Braves players, especially when everybody's healthy, those last couple of bench spots, they're not going to get a lot of opportunities. And so it says a lot for a guy who's able to sit on the bench for weeks at a time and then come in and make the most of his opportunity that he's given. So that was great to see from Luke Williams. The offense scored 23 runs in this series on 32 hits. That's great. That is the offense we've been looking for. They had scored just 19 runs in the 7 games combined before this series. So 23 runs in their past 3 games, 19 runs in their 7 games before that. So this was certainly an offense that was able to break out. Now, we talked about it, even in that 7-game stretch where they were scoring, 3 games or less, 3 runs or less a game. They were getting a lot of base runners for the most part, except for that Sunday game against the Nationals for whatever reason. They were getting a lot of base runners. They just weren't getting those big hits. In this series, we saw them get some of those big hits. So hopefully that is something that is starting to change as well, that we're starting to see the Braves get those big hits and run scoring chances like that as we saw for most of this series. And on the month, you look at it, and we'll obviously do a full month recap probably on Monday or Tuesday's episode next week. But they're top 10 in runs scored in the month of August, which is nice to see. And they're top 10 in total hits, which is great to see for this team. Now, turning our attention to the pitching side of things from Wednesday night, Chris Sale. Masterful again. Wasn't his most dominant start, but 6 innings, 6 hits, 1 walk, 1 earned run, and 6 strikeouts. Had to throw 109 pitches. We saw it in this series with this Twins team. Even though they have some guys missing, Royce Lewis wasn't in the lineup on Wednesday. You were already without Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton. But the hitters that they did put in there, they put up some professional at-bats. They made you work, made you throw a lot of pitches. And it was really just a 4th and 6th inning in this game for Chris Sale. Now, he did have a comebacker that hit him in the 3rd inning. Maybe that kind of affected him a little bit going forward. He threw 34 pitches in that 4th inning after that 3rd inning where he got hit with the comebacker, and then threw 27 pitches in the 6th inning. Outside of that, it was 3 up, 3 down, just dominant Chris Sale type innings like we're used to seeing. But those 4th and 6th innings in particular, he really had to work. It drove that pitch count. You can see he was kind of running out of gas in that 6th inning, but Brian Snitker giving him a chance, the veteran, to work through it. He did, made a big pitch to get out of that spot and get through 6 innings, 6 big innings for the Atlanta Braves to help save some of that bullpen. Interesting, he got in that 4th and 6th inning, he got Christian Vazquez both times out, once on a ground out, once on a strikeout. They were obviously teammates for a while there in Boston, so that was just pretty interesting. Touch on the defense for a minute. Jorge Soler nearly cost Sale again. It seems to continue to happen in Sale starts with the ball that needs to be caught. He doesn't. He did make up for it a little bit with a good throw home to get Manuel Margot. I don't know why he ran in that situation, but really glad that he did. And this one is nitpicky, but the run that the Braves did give up, a ball from Castro, was hard hit, but it was hit right into the ground. I feel like Arcia has to keep that ball on the infield. And again, this is nitpicky. This is not Orlando Arcia is very good defensively, but this is just me, my defensive-minded shortstop mind that I'm watching that play unfold. And to me, it feels like Arcia dove for that ball with the intent of, I'm going to dive at this point because I have a chance to get an out if I dive here. Whereas for me, thinking about it, if you take a deeper angle for that ball and just keep it on the infield, don't worry about making a play, getting an out. You hold that runner at third and you potentially save a run. So I think it was just an instinct of, I'm trying to make this play to get an out versus I'm trying to keep this ball in the infield so that the run doesn't score from second base. Again, that's very nitpicky. Looking at some of the big moments from this game, obviously those 4th and 6th innings were very crucial for Chris Sale and limiting the damage, limiting the runs. You had second and third after that ball that Soler probably should have caught in the fourth inning with no outs. Second and third, no outs. Sale gets out of it with a couple of big strikeouts. Interesting that Murphy went to the fastball for the final two batters in that at-bat. Obviously, the slider, big swing and miss pitch for Chris Sale. But in that at-bat against Willie Castro, they go fastball, fastball, fastball. And Chris Sale responded by going 98.6, 98.6, 98.4 to strike out Castro, and then 98.8 on his first pitch to Vasquez to get a ground out. That is just the dog. D-A-W-G is what I've been told to say. That is just the dog in Chris Sale to say, I'm in a jam here. And Murphy, too, to call those pitches and say, I'm just going to blow gas by these guys. I'm going to get out of this jam with just pure grit, determination, and fire. And that's what you love about Chris Sale. So I thought that was big. And then in that sixth inning, you got some help from Margot getting thrown out at the plate like we talked about. And then a great backdoor slider, after he got Vasquez with the fastball before. Now this was a deeper count, and he was kind of running out of gas there. But to be able to spot a backdoor slider like that to get the strikeout to end that threat, that was just another great pitch and just a lot more guts there from Chris Sale. And then the other key moment, the top of the seventh, obviously huge for the Braves to respond to the Twins tying that game in the bottom of the sixth to come right back. You get a leadoff walk from Ozuna. The Twins go to a lefty. They take out Festa, who was dominating the Braves lineup. We talked a lot about bullpen management the night before for Brian Snitker. And then on this night, I think maybe it's a mistake by Rocco Baldelli here. Festa was really good. And you take him out to bring in the lefty to face Matt Olson. Matt Olson counters that by getting a hit off the lefty, driving in the run, and then it sets up an at-bat for Ramon Laureano, who has a 919 OPS against lefties this year, and he comes through with a hit to add on to the lead. So that was a key moment in this game. And again, Matt Olson getting that lefty-lefty hit really flipped everything about that inning, because that was a strategy from Baldelli, bringing in the lefty to get Matt Olson and eventually Michael Harris, which he did get Michael Harris. But with Matt Olson getting that hit, it then sets you up for an opportunity with Laureano, who's good against lefties. And that's also why I like Laureano in between those two for those situations. So some big key moments in that game, but the Braves come away with the sweep. Loved what I saw from this team in this series. Obviously, when you get a sweep, I love seeing that. But just some of those little things in the game on Wednesday I thought were really fun to watch and interesting as the Braves were able to do what they needed to get a win and the sweep. All right, next we'll turn our attention to the postseason picture. We'll talk about the standings, what the postseason odds look like right now for the teams as we head down the final stretch of the season. When you're at the ballpark, what's your favorite cold treat? When I'm at Truist, which I'm hoping to be there next Sunday, I like to go over that soft serve ice cream. I get the swirl. I get a little bit of the vanilla and chocolate mix. But when you're taking in America's pastime, don't forget to hydrate. It is hot right now. We're going into September, and it is still ridiculously hot out there. And you can hydrate much better with Liquid IV's Popsicle Firecracker flavor. And I can tell you, I can attest to this. I've been trying it out over the last couple of weeks. I love it. My kids love it. They ask for that popsicle drink every single day. It's a great way to keep them hydrated on these hot summer days. All you do is tear, pour, live more. One stick plus 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Powered by LIV Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV, and you get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. I did it just yesterday to get some more of that firecracker or popsicle flavored drink, as my kids call it. I did it myself yesterday. You can do it too by going to liquidiv.com, use our promo code MLB, and get 20% off your first order. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. I was talking about, I said I'm trying to go to a game next Sunday. I'm looking at that Game Time app daily, looking for the best deals out there to go to my next Braves game. And you can too. It's so easy to use. You can toggle to get the all-in prices so you know what you're paying. You can get it right there with one click. It's so easy to use. Get a view from your seat as well. And the game time guarantee means you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And for this upcoming Labor Day, all my listeners out there in Arizona, LA, out on the West Coast, Game Time has an exclusive sale for the Dodgers at Diamondbacks on this Labor Day. You can get tickets at 50% off, obviously limited availability there and supply, but that's 50% off the upcoming Dodgers at Diamondbacks game on Labor Day. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go make your second listen Locked On MLB, where Sully is also going to be getting you ready for the postseason picture, talking about all the teams in Major League Baseball. You can find that on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Tomorrow on this podcast, we will have our live mailbag episode. Probably do that around 1, 2 p.m. Central on Friday. So get ready to submit your questions for that and join me live for that mailbag episode. Let's take a trip around the league. We're going to look at all the standings, talk about the wild card standings, and I'm going to give you the Fangraphs playoff odds for teams to make the postseason. And we're obviously going to get a lot into this Braves-Phillies matchup coming up. But looking at the AL East, the Yankees up 1 game on the Orioles. Again, that just remains a really good division battle to watch. AL Central is becoming a really good one to watch as well. The Royals took 3 of 4 from the Guardians. They were actually tied for a moment, but the Guardians came back on Wednesday to win that game, and they remain 1 game up on the Royals in the AL Central. And even after getting swept, the Twins are just 3.5 games back in the AL Central. The Tigers are 68-66. They've won 6 in a row, and they find themselves maybe not so much in the AL Central race if they got 3 teams in front of them, but they could be in the AL wildcard picture. We'll look at that in a second. The Astros are up 3.5 on the Mariners, so maybe they're not done yet. The Phillies won 2 of 3 from the Astros, kind of helping out the Mariners there, so that AL West race could tighten back up. We're hoping the NL East race tightens back up. The Phillies are up 5 games on the Braves. Again, a lot more to say about that in a minute. The Brewers are up 9 games on the Cubs, who are 7-3 in their last 10 games. They're making a push here for the NL wild card. The Dodgers are up 3 on the Diamondbacks and 4 on the Padres. Looking at the AL wildcard picture, you have the Orioles and the Royals at the top, feeling pretty good about themselves at the moment. Things getting a little bit dicier for the Twins after, again, they just got swept and have lost 4 in a row. The Red Sox are now 3 games back, and both the Tigers and Mariners are 4.5 games back, so they are within striking distance. And then in the NL wildcard, the Diamondbacks and Padres are sitting pretty at the top. The Braves are now up 4 on the Mets. The Mets had a brutal loss on Wednesday night. If you didn't get a chance to enjoy that, Corbin Carroll hit a grand slam in the bottom of the 8th. They brought in Edwin Diaz to try to get a 4-out save. He was all over the place, and then he was in the middle of the place, and Corbin Carroll did not miss it, and he got a big grand slam to help the Diamondbacks come back and win that game and help the Braves out as well as they get a little bit more cushion for that final wild card spot. And like I said, the Cubs playing good baseball as well. They are 5.5 back with their good stretch that they're on at the moment. Take a look at Fangraphs playoff odds. And look, these are odds. These are percentage chances, but I think they're fun to look at now and then maybe reevaluate in the coming weeks as we get down the final stretch here. Teams on Fangraphs that they give a 99% chance to make the postseason: Yankees, Orioles, Phillies, and Dodgers. So again, going based off where things are now and what Fangraphs has projected, those teams are pretty much locks to just make the postseason. I'm not sure why the Brewers aren't 100%. They got a huge lead, almost a 10-game lead in the AL Central, and they're a good team, but they are at 98.9%, so they just missed that 99% cutoff mark. The Guardians, Padres, and Diamondbacks all have a 95% or better chance to make the postseason. So those 3 teams are pretty much locks right now at this point, according to Fangraphs. The Braves are at 88%. It's good. I don't feel that great about it, even though the Braves have been playing really well lately. 88% chance seems really high, but the Braves do have a 4-game lead in the final wild card spot. They have the Mets at just 18%. I assume part of this is maybe strength of schedule the rest of the way. But either way, I feel like that's a pretty big difference there at 88% for the Braves and 18% for the Mets, who are just 4 games back, and you have some more head-to-head matchups there. The Royals and Twins are also over 80% in terms of their chance to reach the postseason. So there's a pretty distinct group there of 80% or higher that have a chance to reach the postseason. There's nobody else above 23%. So you feel like you have a pretty good idea of who those teams are going to be, even though I think some of these races are a little bit closer. The Phillies, they give the Phillies an 86% chance to win the division. It will be interesting. Hopefully I remember. My memory can be rough at times. Hopefully I remember on Monday to go back and see what they have out there after this series. One way or the other. If the Rays win it, does that cut into that percentage a big chunk? If the Phillies win the series, do they pretty much make the Phillies a lock to win the division? Because I think that's the way this goes this weekend. I think if the Phillies win this division, I think it's over. I think if the Braves win this division, they have a chance. So I'm interested to see what that number looks like after this weekend. So right now, write it down. The Phillies have an 86% chance to win the division according to FanGraphs. We'll see what it says after this weekend. The Brewers are the biggest lock to win their division at 98.7%, which is why I don't understand they don't have the Brewers at 99% to make the postseason. But either way. And then looking at World Series odds and World Series favorites, according to FanGraphs, they put the Dodgers with the best chance at 16.7%. I find that very curious. With the way that the Dodgers pitching staff is, I probably would not make them the favorites at the moment. But to be honest, I don't really know who I would put as the favorites right now. I want to say the Phillies, just because I think they're going to show up in the postseason. I think they have the most reliable pitching staff in the postseason. I think the offense will come around, but they've obviously been struggling here down the stretch in the second half. But they have the Dodgers with the best chance at 16.7%, the Yankees next best at 15.4%, and then they do have the Phillies third at 12.7%. The only 3 teams in the teens percentage-wise when it comes to odds of winning the World Series. They give the Braves a 7.4% chance to win the World Series, which is 6th best. Those are the 6th best odds, behind the Padres at 7.7% and behind the Astros at 8.3%. So I don't know how you feel about that. They have the Braves with the 6th best odds to win the World Series. I feel like the Braves can compete with those teams. They lost a series at home against the Padres, but won a series on the road against the Padres. Astros have been playing really good baseball as of late. I honestly haven't paid too much attention to them. I watched some of those games against the Phillies where Phillies honestly kind of dominated the first 2 before the Astros dominated the last one. Yankees rotation doesn't scare me. The Dodgers rotation doesn't scare me. Again, I hate to say this as a Braves fan, and we're going into a big series with them. The Phillies are the team that still scare me the most out of all those teams. I still feel like they're just the most complete team out of that group. But let me know how you feel about some of those teams and who are your favorites. They have the Orioles right behind the Braves, percentage at 7% chance to win the World Series. I know they've been struggling here down the stretch as well. Their starting rotation doesn't necessarily scare me either. But just looking at those teams, the Dodgers, Yankees, Phillies, Braves, Padres, Astros, Orioles, I throw the Diamondbacks in there. I think the Diamondbacks are a really good team. They just made the World Series last year. They've been playing really good baseball in the second half as well. I'm surprised they don't have the Diamondbacks higher, because I think that's a good team. If they can get healthy in the rotation and get some big contributions there, they just got Erod back. The Diamondbacks, to me, are another really sneaky team. They're not even sneaky. They made the World Series last year. They're just a really good team. When I think about matchups for the Braves and matchups that scare me the most, again, I think the Phillies, just because they're a complete team and they seem to have that edge in the postseason. But the Diamondbacks are probably the other team looking at this group that maybe scares me the most, just because of the way that they play, the style of offense that they have. I think they're a really good team. And so the Diamondbacks, I think their chances of winning, of not just getting to the postseason, but winning in the postseason, need to be much higher. But let me know what you think. Those are the odds according to FanGraphs. Again, we'll check back on that maybe in a week or two, especially when we look at that division for the NL East division odds after this weekend. I think will be interesting to see. A little bit of news from around the league. The Nats called up top prospect Dylan Cruz, and he homered on Wednesday against the Yankees, so that's pretty fun. Evan Grant writes that Max Scherzer may have thrown his last pitch with the Rangers. Ron Washington had a quote from him, "Come to Jesus" meeting with his Angels club. Apparently it lasted 90 minutes. Things not going well over there for Ron Washington and the Angels. Just come on back, Ron. Just come on back to the Braves. We'll take you. And then Jason Hayward was picked up by the Astros. And a lot of you out there were wondering if the Braves might pick him up, but I didn't really see the fit there, and I didn't think that was just an obvious one for the Braves, but the Astros go out and get him. And then Rich Hill is set to pitch for the Red Sox at the age of 44, making Charlie Morton and Jesse Chavez look rather young again. So just thought that was an interesting note there. Next, we're going to turn our attention or continue to look at this Phillies series coming up. We'll look at the pitching matchups, who has the edge in this series. We'll discuss that here next. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And now you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And right now, for the month of September, one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. You're getting a free win 4 times a week. A free win once every 4 weeks, or once for 4 weeks on PrizePicks. I'm opening up the PrizePicks app now. You can click on the MLB tab there, search for certain players, certain teams. They got pitchers, strikeouts, total bases, first inning runs allowed, hitter fantasy score, hits, runs, plus RBIs. They have so much to choose from there. And again, all you got to do is pick 2 to 6 player stat projections. And again, for the month of September, football only plays once a week. It's not every day like baseball, but 4 times in the month of September, you're going to get a free win with 1 Caleb Williams passing yard. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including Georgia and Alabama. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. This is a new deal that they have going on here with the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, it is the final chance for the Atlanta Braves. In my mind, we talked about this at the beginning of the week. I said this is the biggest week of the year when it comes to the NL East race. If something is going to happen, it's going to happen this week. Braves obviously got off to a great start. You sweep the Twins. And I said coming in, you have to come into this series 5 games back or less. They did that. They had to sweep the Twins to do it because the Phillies won 2 out of 3 against the Astros. Was hoping we'd get a little bit more help from the Astros in that series. But you get to where you need to be. You're 5 games back coming into this series. And now you win this series, you're 3 games back. That is well within striking distance going into the month of September. You split this series, you're right where you are now, and I don't think that's good enough. I don't think you can make up 5 games, and I think what will be 25, 26 games, I'm not sure. My wife does the math in our house. But that would be a lot to overcome. You lose this series, it's done. You're done at that point. Obviously, you get swept, you're done. If you sweep this series or win this series, you give yourself a chance. But you have to do one of those things. In my mind, you cannot split. You cannot lose. You obviously cannot get swept. But you win this series or you sweep, you give yourself a chance going into September. That's how it plays out for me. You have to at least win this series and stay under 5 games. Obviously, if you win it, you're within 3 games. That gives yourself a shot in September. The pitching matchups for this one, Charlie Morton versus Christopher Sanchez, Ronaldo Lopez versus Ranger Suarez, Max Fried versus Zach Wheeler, and Spencer Schwellenbach versus Nola. Obviously, Charlie Morton is the one you worry about the most. I know he's been pitching better as of late, but we know that can change very quickly, whether from start to start, sometimes inning to inning, sometimes pitch to pitch with Charlie Morton. And he's the one that has to set the table for the weekend. You know, you get by that game, and then you feel pretty good the rest of the way. Lopez, you feel pretty good about, even though Ranger Suarez has handled the Braves really well in his career. Max Fried versus Zach Wheeler should be a really good pitching matchup. And then Schwellenbach versus Nola, I feel pretty confident in. So it really is this first game on Thursday night is going to set the tone for the rest of this series. Can Charlie Morton give you another good performance? Can he keep you in this ball game? And can your offense, who had a lot of base runners against Christopher Sanchez, but couldn't really put up that big inning, that big number, can they get to him this time? Can the offense win you this game? Maybe Charlie Morton doesn't have it, but can that offense continue what they did in Minnesota and win you a ball game? Either way, Thursday night, obviously, anytime you're in any series, but especially one like this, the first game is going to say a lot about what happens the rest of the series. Not to mention the Braves bullpen has been taxed here lately, and you've had to use your best guys. You got to imagine Jimenez and Iglesias are both going to be unavailable. And look, I have no problem. We didn't really get into this with the bullpen on Wednesday night. I have no problem with the way Snit handled that bullpen, especially after what happened on Tuesday. And I think that's why he handled it that way on Wednesday, because of what almost disaster happened on Tuesday. I have no problem with that. You got a chance to win a game, use your best relievers, go lock it down. But I can't imagine you're going to use those guys 3 days in a row. So you're likely without your two best bullpen options in this game, and you have what is probably your worst starter. So I don't love that. I don't love that from the Braves standpoint. I think you're really going to need your offense to show up in game one of this series and possibly win you a game. And then the rest of the way, you just got to hope the pitching maintains like it has, and that the offense can get to, their three best starters in Suarez, Wheeler, and Nola. It's going to be tough. But this is the Braves' chance. If they're going to win the NL East, this is their chance. And I've said I would love to win the division, certainly. But more so than that, I just need to see this Braves team playing good baseball down the stretch. If they split this series, but they play good baseball and they just get beat by a good team, I'm okay with that. The Braves still got what they need in front of them and a chance to get a wild card spot and get into the postseason. Obviously, I would love for them to win this series and give themselves a shot at the division, but it has to happen now. You have no more head-to-head matchups with them. The time is running out. Now is the time. So looking forward to this series. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll obviously be covering on the postcast. So make sure you're subscribed at Locked On Braves. We'll cover it a little bit tomorrow on our mailbag episode as well, where we get into some of the questions. But looking forward to this big series. Thanks so much to Doc's Cards, Jessica Wingracer, Brogglesby, AA, Trip, Michael Fowler. Doc, make sure you use that code for game time. Go to that Dodgers-Diamondbacks game on Labor Day. I know you're out there in Arizona. Protect PR. Thank you all for joining me here today. That will do it this episode of a Locked On Braves. Make sure that you make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day. Subscribe to us on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.